Arriving home from the education center, the young Delcian placed her fur-covered paw on the scanner and entered her residence. She made her way down the hallway of the small, but not cramped apartment-style domicile her family lived in. She moved into the food preparation segment of the residence and saw her mother scrolling through the interface mounted on the counter. Her mother stopped and warmly greeted her. The two short but very bear-like forms embraced each other. "How was the education center today, Jayla?" the mother asked, placing her learning interface on the counter, and sighing loudly in a huff. Jayla answered, "Well, you know the new species we have at the center? The human?" "Yes, Lily. The ambassador's daughter. You said you've been making friends with her. Did something happen?" her mother asked worriedly. Jayla squirmed a moment. "Well, sorta, but not really. I don't know. She said it was her birthday today, and she was kinda sad because she wasn't really able to celebrate like she normally does at home on Earth." Her mother stared for a moment in confusion. "What's a birthday, Jayla? I don't understand." Sitting in the wide high-back chair, Jayla crossed her arms and laid her head on the counter. "According to Lily, the humans have a party for the day they are born. Friends and everyone get together, and there's candy and presents and games and all sorts of fun stuff. It's like a whole special day just for them. Of course, we had a celebration at your arrival, but it was just our small family unit. There are far too many births during the bearing season. Everyone who was pregnant is busy with their own new offspring," her mother responded. Slouching her shoulders and grunting in frustration, Jayla retorted, "No, Mom. Like they celebrate it every year, and today was the equivalent day on Earth for Lily. Humans don't have a season when all the babies are born. They just happen all year." Pausing to compose herself, the mother smoothed her simple dress and stood up. She took a deep breath and smiled. "Now, Jayla, I'm sure this new human is just trying to have some fun with you and making up stories. Why she would make up something like this is beyond me, but I will have a talk with Proctor Vex and see that this is sorted out. You are at the center to learn not to be told wild tales about the breeding habits of new species." Jayla raised her and leaned back, looking up at the ceiling. She slowly started to spin in the chair and let a deep, exasperated sigh. "I already asked Proctor Vex because it just seemed so weird. He looked it up on the interface and said it was true. He didn't know what a birthday was, but in the records for human breeding season the entry said indeterminate/continuous, which means she was telling the truth." Jayla's mother, watching her daughter slowly spin in the chair, was dumbfounded. She had never heard of such a thing. In all the species in the gathering of systems, everything had a cycle. It was what she was taught as absolute biology among all things. She would need to make a call and see just how truthful her daughter and this new friend were being. Jayla was not one to lie, but perhaps the young mind can misheard or misunderstand things. "Well, darling, if this girl is your friend, and this is something for their culture, maybe we can do something to make her feel special. Not every year, though," she thought. "That's a bit much. Okay, apparently cake is a big deal for the celebration. We gotta figure out what cake is. Lily says it's amazing." Jayla said excitedly. The mother returned to her interface. She had work to do. Jayla continued to ponder whatever delicious wonders cake held in store. All the while she wiggled and kicked under the counter to keep the perpetual motion of her chair in rotation, distracting her mother from her research. The mother reached out to Proctor Vex in a small chat window to assess the validity of her daughter's claims. While she waited for a response, she found precious little about humans on her interface. The education center had a much wider reach for access to information, especially about new species, so she wasn't surprised when humans were only mentioned in brief sightings. Tall tales of exploits and battles, which had no way of being accurate, limited accounts of apex predators as pets, and the preposterous list continued. This was obviously the work of interface trolls and storytellers, making up accounts to gain popularity. She'd just have to wait for Proct. And there it was. He had responded, "The girls are accurate." That was the message. That's it. No elaboration or explanation, simply affirmation that their claims were correct. She responded back, requesting a meeting with the proctor. If this Lily was going to be her daughter's friend, she better know what she was getting into. The following morning, Jayla's mother waited in the proctor's office. The tall Keratin arrived shortly after the morning assembly with the staff and students greeted her. "Seen and well met, Erixia," his raspy voice said with a nod of his large green bulbous head. It was a formal greeting, but this was a place of learning and a scheduled meeting. She nodded back slightly lower to show her respect. He outstretched his thin, gangly arm and gestured for her to sit, clasping the chair with his 3 fingers and pulling the seat out for Erixia. It seems Jayla has made a new friend, and it's been a bit of a learning curve for all of us. It's very exciting. What can I help you with? Yes, it is very exciting. Jayla has had nothing but praise for Lily, even if she is a little strange, but that can be said about all new species, I guess. What can you tell me about the humans? Everything I have found seems to be rather outlandish, and I'd rather not be caught unaware the next time Jayla comes home with questions. Proctor Vex blinked, his grouping of eyes all closing in unison. Well, it all seems to be true. Yes, all of it. Humans are a strange species, and everything I can find tells me to be glad they are on our side. He paused, not to say Lily is dangerous in any way. She is but a child of 14 Earth years old, the equivalent of Jayla in many cases. They are just very different from the rest of the galaxy. But we'll adjust and make Lily feel welcomed. With Jayla's help, hopefully. Erixia pondered for a moment. She thought of the wild tales she had seen in her interface the day before and was slightly hesitant. Lily had done nothing wrong and by all accounts had been a good friend to Jayla in the few short weeks they had known each other. Yes, Jayla would love to help, and I will do what I can. Tell me about this birthday that had Lily out of sorts? Vex cleared his throat, as he often did. I communicated with the ambassador last night, and she stated that they did have a small celebration at their residence last night, but Lily was homesick and missed the larger event she has grown accustomed to. The ambassador did what she could, but things out here are different, and Lily will need to make some adjustments. Jayla's mother, without hesitation, looked at the proctor and said, "Leave it to me and Jayla. We'll handle it." And with that she stood up, turned, and left the office, leaving Proctor Vex with his mouth agape. Handle what? The confused voice of Vex echoed out of his office as Erixia hurried down the hall. She had work to do. The next coming days were a blur of sly questions about the nature and procedure of birthday celebrations, mixed with coordination, and even a few communications with the ambassador. Jayla didn't have a lot of information, but sweets, games, and friends seemed to be at the top of the list from what she could gather. Presents were also a large portion, but what do you get a human teenage girl? Erixia had no idea. She'd have to make do. At the end of the formal week, it had all been arranged. The stuffy Proctor Vex even seemed like he was enjoying the excitement of the new experience and allowed a small function to be held in one of the smaller meeting rooms. Jayla and Lily were called to the main office while the last details were out into place. The girls were led to the portal of the small room, confused and patiently waiting. Erixia motioned for them to press the sensor and open the door. The whir of the electric motor clicked on, and the door split at the seam in the middle, revealing a dazzling display of colors and sounds. "Joyous birthday!" exclaimed the little crowd of classmates and instructors within the enclosed space. Lily's eyes brightened, a huge smile on her face. She turned to hug Jayla. "Thank you," Lily whispered in her ear. Lily held for a moment longer and squeezed. It almost hurt. Jayla hadn't known how strong Lily was. They entered the room and were amazed at the floating orbs of shifting colors and the floating tables laid out with treats and sweet delights. A pink box sat proudly in the center. Jayla had never seen a box quite like that before. Upon inspection, it held a square food item of some sort, spongy in texture and covered in a paste with the words "Happy Birthday, Lily" across it. Lily, holding the ambassador's hand, walked up to Jayla. "That's the cake," she beamed, "and this is my mom." Jayla nodded and greeted the ambassador, eyes fully fixed on the cake. A knowing glance between Jayla and Lily. Lily looked up at her mother, and she nodded. The two girls grabbed plates and cut themselves rather large pieces of cake. Lily was explaining about how you're supposed to wait for the cake to be lit on fire, and then spit on it to put it out while everyone sings, but Jayla wasn't paying attention. Jayla reached for the unwieldy piece of cake on her plate, but Lily stopped her. She handed her a small utensil with several tines on it. The fork, as it was called, required a level of dexterity Jayla couldn't muster with her paws. Seeing this, Lily set her fork aside and lifted the plate to her face and ate the cake straight off the plate. Jayla did the same. The cake hit Jayla's tongue, and she was entranced. A mouthful of confectioner, she mumbled, "Birthdays are great." The girls nodded with each other and finished entirely too much cake together. They shared with the class and instructors, who all agreed about the necessity for cake to be spread throughout the gathering. The ambassador looked at Lily and seeing her with her friends laughing and just being a normal kid in the vast array of species at this side of the galaxy's first birthday party. She looked over at Erixia, they shared a smile, and from one mother to another across species they shared a moment. While the ambassador mouthed thank you.